Moo and good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Pink Tron. I am Brent Robinson, and I'm joined today by Sean Fogenberg. Sean, what are you drinking?
I'm never first.
I
Uh,
know, that's why I'm mixing it up.
so I may have had a little too much to drink at a holiday party last night, so I am on the a lime and ginger sparkling water. But in order to still be interesting, one of the things that we did for this holiday party was like a big potluck thing. I made some desserts. So I've got a tiramisu and churros. Uh, I the goal was to make churro-masu. So like instead of the lady fingers, put
Instead of lady
churros.
fingers, yeah.
But we didn't get the timing right, so we've got both things. But
That is
cheers.
an impressive wedge of tiramisu that you're eating with a churro,
Yeah.
which from now on should be the only way to eat tiramisu, I think.
We had a whole like baking pan of tiramisu, like basically a whole sheet cake size tiramisu.
You didn't finish that bad boy off when you were not feeling well from all the drinking.
Well, so there were 20 something people there. Most like there was one little piece left.
Got it. All right. You also heard Steve Pritchard. Steve, what are you drinking?
Well, we've just been discussing this beforehand. I appear to be drinking the least Belgian drink ever, which is a Belgian SIPA, SIPA, so Session IPA, from the Beer 52 Club again, brewed in Edinburgh, obviously. Yeah, Steph's review was, I have never heard of this beer in my life, but then again, there are a lot of beers in Belgium. So yeah, quite nice, and but not very Belgian, it would seem.
Well, we won't hold it against him. And yes, we do have our resident Belgian, Steph Etienne. Steph, what are you drinking?
Trusty Fanta Lemon. And Scotland, it has the same weather as Belgium, probably. So it has that going for it.
It's probably not wrong. And we also have John Keenan. John, what are you drinking?
So I got a cup of tea because I always have tea, but I did manage to find a rather odd looking thing in the fridge. Petey's Bing energizing juice beverage. It's got caffeine and ginseng and B vitamin. So we'll see.
Very nice. Very nice. And I have, because it is December 20th as we record, Eau Claire Christmas Gin and Tonic. So it's got like frankincense and myrrh flavors
Oh,
and little gold flakes in it. And it's made by a local distillery called Eau Claire Distillery. And we always get it at Christmas.
Oh,
And,
festive.
is it good? I think is the
I like it. Like, I don't know. It's kind of one of those things like you like it when it's the season for it, but I don't know if I drink it all year round. So like when we buy our bottle at in November, December, we drink it through December, and that's perfect. I like it. That's just the right amount of it. So
I think there's a difference between a Christmas drink and a winter drink, isn't there? So like port, happy when it's cold to drink a port.
Mhm.
Eggnog,
It's
might try.
always a bad time for eggnog, I
that sounds like an episode title.
think.
you know what? There's
Yeah.
also always a bad time for
What?
riding 4 laps of the Breakaway Bray as part of Breakfast Crits and Grits on HWR this week.
Nice.
So let's get into it. I has anyone ridden it? Did any of you guys do even recons this? Has anyone ridden this before? I've never ridden it.
Yeah, it was in ZRL, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, it
ZRL
was one.
phase one.
Last season.
Okay, I
This
didn't do the last race. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, this was the community like selected route for
Yeah.
last season.
I really like it in the way that I quite often say I really like courses, but for me, it's one of those courses where you're all like, it's a bit like New York in that you're always doing something. You like there's very little not pedaling and resting. It's quite a brutal assault, which is just good fun. It was a good hour of getting on your bike in the shed and going hard when you need to go hard and trying not to go hard when you didn't have to go hard. Um, but yeah, some punchy bits in there as well. So a bit of an all-round course as well. But yeah, I think there's opportunities for lighter folks, and if you're strong as a heavier folk and want to try and keep up on the longer climb, give it a go.
Yeah, so just for the uninitiated, this route starts at the Scotland pens, the ones that aren't in Glasgow, then goes straight up the Zgur south, so the pavement side of the Zgur, which is not too long and hard, although it will be an HWR. Let's be ready for that.
Yeah.
Is
Straight out of the pens up a hill
1K.
is gonna break stuff up.
Yeah, 1K at 3.3%. So be warmed up. It's gonna go bananas cuckoos for 4.3 kilometers.
Yeah.
Then you go down the hill into Glasgow, and I guess when you hit the bottom, there is a little bit of a rise up from that roundabout up to Glasgow. So probably do your best to recover on the gravel if you can. And then you're going to do through the Clyde kicker, through the champion sprint, out of Glasgow, across the what I think of as the top of Scotland or the far west side of Scotland, down the north side, through the little roundabout curly Q guy there. And then you're going to do 4 laps of breakaway Bray doing in the
Reverse.
clockwise direction, the
Yep.
reverse direction. Yeah. So you're going to do breakaway Bray reverse 4 times. And sort of that cutoff is at the little breakout by Nessie there. So it's that little right-hand turn essentially 4 times. And then when you hit the 4th time coming back across that bridge that does that figure 8, you're going to hang a left up the curly Q bit basically, and then over to the Zgur South, and one more time to the Zgur South to finish at the top of Zgur South.
And that little bit, even this is an area that I think is going to catch some people. Is after you do those 4 laps of the Bray and then the little climb back up into the castle, you then have a long drag up to the Zgur to finish. And you're already tired when you're doing that drag, and if people push it, like that is a really big attrition point.
Yeah, and then you still need to do that final climb after that. So yeah, that's gonna be
so
brutal.
tough. I mean, it's interesting as a course. I mean, there's all of the climbs are some version of short to draftable, right? There's nothing in this that is, like even a 3 to 5 minute. Well, maybe some people will be 3 minutes on Zgur South, but it's like you can be in the draft the whole time, except for maybe the first little kick. There's one part right at the start that goes to about 6%. So you might slow down out of draft speed there. But other than that, the whole thing is going to be over 20 kph. So hang on to the wheels. And then like those breakaway reverse, like it's not very steep on that direction. So definitely like even if people are pushing it, you can hold wheels. Kicker definitely steep but short. And then those little curly Q guys, again, steep but short. I don't know. I've never had any luck shaking anyone in those curly Qs, I guess. I mean, I suppose I've seen other people get broken off, but I've never had any success going hard enough to break anyone there. I don't know about you guys.
I have seen
not as an individual. Like I've done what's happened in races I've done is that I've tried to be like 3rd or 4th wheel because I've not been quite strong enough to go, and I've held the draft and the gaps opened up behind me. So kind of I think with all of those bits you mentioned, there's the opportunity to go really, really hard, and then the hard bit afterwards is short enough that you can try and stick that and you'll get a bit of a chance to recover. Whereas if you don't go really, really hard, you might get gapped, and then you've got to work a lot harder to get back to that group.
I feel like this is a course where there's so many opportunities to lose concentration and just get dropped.
Yeah.
Like, it's
100%,
over
John.
and over and over. Like you just got to stay on it. And with the exception of that, like that mayhem in the beginning, right? You're going to have the fast start. You're going to start going up the south. I think that does separate you. At least I remember in ZRL that separated us into several different groups right there. And then you basically got to hang on to your group.
Yeah, I think it'll separate, but I think the curious thing about HWR is how much it will, like it's so early that I think a lot of stuff will come back together, especially if there's motivated people, there's a big descent, there's a kicker. So like if someone gets motivated on the front, maybe not to catch the fast guys who, there's the A pluses are going to smoke everyone. But, if you're kind of like a bigger high C and you get dropped on there, and you decide you're gonna chug it on the front, you might close like a 5-10 second gap before you get back to like breakaway reverse, for example. I think if you're motivated and you get a group.
So, just looking at the results from race
Yeah, I was
one
about to say
is
bonker.
great evidence that this is a really tough course, especially with a HWR field. Scorekeeper finished fourth, and Matt DeFreitas was 2 minutes off the pace in 18th.
Oh my God, that's a crazy field. That might be
Yeah.
the fastest one. Brent may not get in the fastest HWR this week because I won't be in race two either.
Yeah, that
But yeah,
I
that's
was
hard.
watching a bit the live ticker. That guy that won it before the climb at like a 40-second gap at one point, but yeah,
Yeah.
5.5 average for half an hour.
Good for Mark Prado to get second though. Wow.
And all that took was 8+ watts a kilo for a minute.
Jesus. And that was probably at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Wow. Oh, Cam St. Pierre in 23rd. Oh, oh, good. Jeff Murbosh got 29th. There's a Mustang. Well, that was yeah, that's wild challenge. Okay. Duly
Yeah,
noted.
Speaking of cuckoo's bananas.
Yeah, yeah. So
for,
be prepared.
yeah, Mark Prado did fastest time up the Skur was 1:25, 1 minute 25 at 7.8 watts per kilo.
Okay. I don't know what else to say to that. I think on that note, I guess one thing bike is full arrow or like Pinarello with disc, maybe Tron.
Yeah. Yeah. It's as you said, everything's draftable. I think that discs is not going to be wrong.
Yeah, I think the Pinarello with the disc is surprisingly fast when you pull up Zwift bikes. Usually, I haven't pulled it up for this one, but it's a remarkable number of times that's like the fastest option. So, yeah, I think that's the bike choice. Good. All right, that brings us to herd beginner racing. We got something different this wec, right?
Yeah, Nate said in his post, it's on triple twist. The A to C pans do the full distance, and D and E do 15.2 kilometers, finishing at the bridge. I assume that's the bridge before they do hilly reverse. Basically, triple twist. It's downtown Pans through the volcano, lap around Jarvis Island, the clockwise version. So the reverse Jarvis KM you do, back to the volcano, through the SS, around that Italian villas island thing, and then up hilly reverse, finishing at the downtown Pens. And Nathan said for the A's to C pens, expecting race times in the 40 to 46-minute range, and D's and E's should get 35 minutes in for that 15-kilometer.
Are you sure that it ends at the downtown Pens? It looks like it ends in Jarvis.
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, it's Jarvis, sorry.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and wherever it ends, like I guess there's a different finish line for the other groups.
And this is the first time, right, that this has been in HBR?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's one of the newer routes. I done it in part of the route for Climbers Gambit, but I think it's first on HBR.
It was just released last month. So
yeah, it's a fun course. I think for beginners, it has a lot to offer us, even for that D's and E's with that only having the Jarvis KOM reverse in the middle, but still you have then the S's at the end. So yeah,
Nice. Good. So yeah. Oh, I will get into. I guess is this the first week with the new bands in HBR too? Is he changing bands for this week?
could be, or it's next week. I can't
Okay.
recall.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll talk more about there's changing bands, but um, be just maybe double check which band you're in. Don't get worked up about it.
I
There's adjustments being made.
I think that there was a post that was made in um, the Zwift Racing Score like Zwift forum post or thread by I think it was is it Paul Smith who's the other one who does
Yeah,
stuff
it's one of Nathan's team crew.
basically outlining what those bands were going to be for HBR. So I wouldn't be surprised if it is for this week. And but I think the idea is that the top of the band is still going to be, or the top level is still going to be up to 425. But because with the new Zwift Racing Score changes, there's not so many people concentrate. Like there was some glitch before where there were so many people around 11, and so the bottom band needed to be lower. They've been able
Yeah,
to expand that up a bit and get tighter bands for those higher bands.
Looks like they're all 75 points, except for that top band is only 50. At least on companion app right now.
Yeah.
Good. So yeah, HBR, we continue to iterate on that and just try and make it a good experience for people who are new to racing. Bike choice, I think, is your fastest, slipperiest thing you got. Probably
yeah,
like those Canyon Roads are good at low levels. Titanium Nuclear.
yeah. Jarvis KOM has some steeper pinches, as does Hilly KOM at the beginning, but for the rest, it's a rolly. So
Good. All right, that brings us to Climbers Gambit this week. Steph.
yeah, we're moving along in our British countryside series. Not really countryside anymore, well, Surrey Hill. So we're tackling this week Lead Hill, a very long lead in. I think it's one of the 17-kilometer lead in. It's one of the longer ones, but you can't get there any faster. Uh, Also, with a 4K climb at the end of that lead in before you tackle the actual KOM, which is, as I mentioned, lead hill. It's two kilometers at around 7-ish%. First 500 meters is flattish, 1 to 3%, but then it goes very quickly, 8 to 11% most of the time. So full climber on this one for sure.
And what sort of time should we, if you're like normal human C's and B's, be looking at on this one?
It's
Looking,
around the same. I think it's even a little shorter than Box Hill.
Oh, really?
I feel like Leaf is. Let me make sure. It's 1.9K at 7%. Um, so in
my
terms,
fast, yeah, my fastest time about more than a year ago. It's 8.5 minutes. So yeah, it's in that for, and then I was middle C. So yeah, that's in that Box Hill length territory.
it's a little shorter. So Brent's fastest is 624.
6:23.
I've done a 649. I think a lot of these were in. It looks like a lot of these are May 25th, 21, which I think was ZRL on Surrey Hills.
It was indeed.
I remember that hurting a lot. But I do think that the idea holds. Like you're gonna be, call it 30 seconds to a minute faster than your Box Hill time.
Yeah. And as we discussed, this is the first week where all the climbers gambits are in the club events now. Try to do as much promotion as I can, just by having some YouTube comments back and forth with Gerben, another YouTuber. It's still difficult for people to find it. So we'll see. The series was going good. 4 slots at the 20 average required for the December series, but it remains to be seen if we get that via club events. Most likely not, but who knows?
Yeah, if you don't know how to find herd racing club events, there is a video now on our YouTube page showing how to do it on an Android device in the companion app. It's just ever so slightly different in iOS for reasons that no one can explain. And it's really like it's just the way it kind of looks. Like there's just weird menu stuff that doesn't happen on iOS the way it happens on Android. Anyway, you'll figure it out if you check that video out. So
And
thanks to Steve and Craig for putting that together.
Yeah, thanks for those guys for putting that together. What's the status of the Zwift version of this race? Are we expecting to get all those people who used to race the Zwift Hill Climbers race series? Have they canceled it, or is it just only on some?
Hill Climb series didn't also meet the requirements, so all those events are canceled as well.
Canceled, or do they have like some stealth club that we don't know about? Like,
Zwift doesn't really have a club.
They don't have a club. How would you? Yeah, okay. So there could be some silver lining there that will get some folks who like that format.
I was contemplating, should I put something in that Facebook group, but it's a Zwift only thing, so was maybe bad promotion to promote a different series, although it's
I did comment on a post that saying it was going away, saying, "Hey, come join us." But
but putting on a full post as a race organizer might be a bit of bad taste.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm going to kind of repeat my comment from last week of like we've got 10,800 members in the Facebook group for the Herd Racing League, so. Like, if we can't get 20 people to an event, like people
10,000 in the Herd Racing League.
I sort of made a comment on a post with someone saying, "Oh, I quite like the bullseye." Like, cool, get people to go and do the bullseye. Like, there's a lot of people in this group as a starting point. Like,
that was a bit my when I did my announcement post that I did those two call outs in both Facebook groups. So just try it. So to help us out, see what's you might not get. It might be a Herd Climbers Gambit slot that gets put back on the public calendar, but who knows? We're still working on what we're going to do for 2025. But at least then we know which slots might be popular to use for future plans. So yeah,
I'd really promote like the Climbers Gambit as something that's a bit different as well. Like ostensibly, yes, it is a time trial up a hill, but as we've talked about a load of times before, you've actually done some quite different things with it. It is very different to an ITT. It's usually shorter, it's punchier. Hill efforts are different to flat ITT efforts, and the things like the slowest, fastest, or fastest, slowest time, and then the aggregate times, like those were really different pacing exercises to kind of like Zwift doing a hill climb or Zwift doing an ITT. Like it's a really different series. So really, and because you're only racing yourself, like it's quite a friendly introduction to racing as well.
Yeah, it was same with the Stampede. The Stampede is a longer effort, but still even for newer people, just give it a go, because it's not you're racing 25 other people's. You still have a ranking for Stampede or Climbers Gambit, but you're, like you said, you're racing essentially yourself. For me, that's what was my attraction to Climbers Gambit. It was for me a way to see how well I do on these efforts. Just to see what my fitness was about, especially if you go into the very longer climbs like Innsbruck, then you know if can I improve my 20-minute power maybe over a X amount of periods. Yeah.
Good. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Mountain goats this week. I've got Surrey Hills.
Yep.
So I think it's just the whole course of Surrey Hills. So it's basically go and do all four hills in the London map. So it's
Plus
basic.
one.
Yeah.
Oh, right. It
You do
finishes at the
Fox
top of
twice.
Fox, pardon me,
Yeah.
Fox twice.
Yeah.
So basically, the Surrey part of the London map has two hills, and you can climb each of them from both directions for four climbs. So you go up, down, up, down, up, down, up, finish at the top of Fox. Yeah, it's like 40 some odd kilometers. I don't know.
Yeah.
Go hard on the
And
hills.
about 1,000 meters of elevation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough course. I remember doing that for last year for one of the Advent calendars, or no, it wasn't the Advent calendar, for a 25K version of that for Ladder League, finishing up just after Box Hill on that kicker. So yeah, it's a mean course.
Yeah.
I think we did it in what either Chasing Yellow or FRR, and certainly it was
Yeah.
in an early ZRL, and it's just a miserable course. So it's just
Yeah.
not enjoyable.
I mean, looking at that, when just remembering that that was a ZRL course is a reminder that maybe ZRL has gotten a little soft.
You're not
Like,
wrong. You're not wrong. I think the D's who were taking 2 hours to finish Surrey Hills kind of won
It,
the
pro-
day on that one.
I
there,
think
there
it was
was
an hour and 45 for the slow Bs. It's a long. That's when I
Oh
was in
yeah.
B. It's a long course, but like this for me is the real reason, like the real positive about the kind of reduced race calendar, the increased race density. This is a classic course that actually, like I'd say, it's not an enjoyable course. It's a really enjoyable course if you're riding against some people. Like if you've got a big field and
yeah,
you get your little group of 3 to 5 people, and on every hill you're like, oh, I might just drop that person. Like it really
yeah,
motivates me. But in a small
but
field, you're going to end up on
yeah,
your own.
if you're five people in your category, it's just you could basically write it yourself for the rematch and get probably more people around you.
I know it's a hard course, but I do like Surrey Hills. I like it
I do
better than doing
too.
something like Mountain or Four Horsemen or whatever, right? Because as much as
Yeah,
like they're a little different, but they're kind of like it's like four kind of 6 to 12 minute, 13, 15 minute climbs. You just kind of like
yeah,
can go hard, recover, go hard, recover. It's a real good fitness test. If you can ride it good and you have a good day on Surrey Hills, you've really felt like you've accomplished something. Good. That brings us to Stampede this week is one lap of Classique Reverse. So this is in the London map as well. You start at the London Pens, go up so out to Northumberland Street, down, back up into the Classique from the reverse direction. If you just did, what did we just do? Greatest London Flat on? Is that HWR last week? Yeah,
yeah,
HWR last week.
yeah,
So if you did that last week, you'll be very familiar with this. And then once you go through that Classique pen, it's basically a lap where you go out through the Flamme Rouge banner backwards to that hairpin, back into, is it Piccadilly Circus? Is that before you go to the Admiralty Arch? British people? Steve doesn't even know. I think it's Piccadilly Circus. Anyway, then you go back down the hill over to the other side of Buckingham Palace, back through the reverse banner, and that's a lap. 13K, it's very flat aside from maybe that Northumberland bump a little bit. So full arrow. And I think for 13K, most people should be clearing sub 20 minutes. I think maybe C's and D's will be really pushing up against 20 minutes. So it's a good 20-minute FTP test basically. Maybe for the A's it's a little short. Yeah, we're on the penultimate one. We got McCurry Pretzel coming next week. If you're doing Stampede and you're worried about results, we are working on it. There's just that's all supported by WTRL. They're busy with, they just finished up last week, so they had some ZRL results to sort out, and we'll get it there. So just stick with it. We'll get it all sorted. We're aware. We're tracking it. So, all right, bullseye this week.
it's a mystery.
Mystery course. Maybe we're not even gonna have a bullseye this week. It is on Christmas, so there's a
Oh
non-zero
yeah,
chance it's just Bell Lap again.
oh yeah, it's on Wednesday. Yeah, probably maybe needs the next 2 weeks, no bullseye since it's New
Yeah,
Year, Christmas and New Year's Day. So yeah,
Christmas and New Year's, and it's put into that it's going to be in the private club in any event. So, you know, um, may not be bullseye the next 2 weeks. So that's the week of herd racing. All right. News this week. Let's get into the news this week. I think it's the changes to the ZRS bands that are most likely coming. It sounds like in January.
So
No.
there are already events on the calendar for December 30th, even. So the starting at the end of this month and going forward, there are going to be new ZRS bands. Uh, the biggest part of this is splitting off essentially elite racers at I think it's 650 plus, and only having. So this is specifically going to be running for the Z Racing events. Um, so there will only be 5 events a day for that top band of 650 plus, with the idea of um, getting again good race density for that
yeah,
top level because that is the band at which you get a really hard time finding riders.
yeah,
Yep.
But then they have, and this I think is actually really smart. Every hour for community races, there will be 2 different sets of bands with approximately 120 point band ranges. So uh, there's one set that's like 0 to 160, 160 to 270, 270 to 390, 390 to 510, 510 to 650. At the next hour, so an hour later, the thresholds are essentially in the middle of each of those bands.
mm,
So the bands are essentially 160 wide, but the shifts are approximately 50 to 60 on each of those bands for alternating hours, which means that, and this is, I think, the thing that people are really kind of frustrated about in a lot of if you have static bands, is that you get to the top of your category, you start winning, you get bumped up to the next category, and then you start losing and you bounce up and down between those bands, right? So I'm in category E or whatever, I get bumped up, I'm a D, I lose, I get bumped back down to E, and it's just you rubber band up and down between those two. In this version, if you're at the top of one of those bands, you get bumped up. Well, if you stay in that time slot at that with that band, you're going to be at the bottom. But you're actually in the middle of the, opposite hour band. And
yeah,
so you don't get that feeling of like I got punished for doing well. And I think that is a thing that a lot of people like that is a thing I think that drives a lot of the sandbagging, the like score tanking, whatever it is that people do to try and like, I want to get into races that are actually fun. And it's not fun to get into like, I just won a race and now I can't even hang on to um, the race that I'm now forced into. And I think that this combination of tighter bands and when you get bumped up, you have the ability to jump into the middle of that next band, probably ends up meaning that most of those races are going to be really tight because it's the top half that's actually getting filled for most of those races. Thoughts?
Especially the kind of the most races tend to be good on a sprint in Zwift. The people that win most races as well. And I think if you have a good sprint, but actually you might be able to hold a group and still have your good sprint at the end, just with a slightly tougher group. So that will start stretching your 20-minute power. So like we'll hopefully really sort of grow that type of racer as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, it sounds really good. And even though my brain now hurts a bit from trying to understand
Yeah.
how that.
I didn't need to
Yeah,
give all the numbers. The main point really is tighter bands with approximately half band shifts every hour.
This reminds me of, I think Rhino had a series where they had the mad end and the back end
yeah,
or
yeah,
something. I can't remember what their other term for it was, but it was basically if you were in the old version a C and you were in the top half, you were suggested to race in this, and then an hour later, like the sort of the bottom half of the C range was encouraged, or the bottom half of all the ranges was encouraged to race in
yeah.
that.
You could be like a middle C or low C, jump into the not the mad end, but the other one, and still be at that top. Basically, what's that? No, that's what Sean said. That middle one. So you can indeed. It's all planning your timing and why. But if you upgrade, you can see now I have to do these time slots, and I'm in the middle. If I upgrade to that, you can use it as these alternating things as a stepping stone to improve your racing score or your how you are in the fields.
Seems like it's just going to push the swing on the issue of people aren't going to sign up for a race until 20 minutes before the race because they'll be like, oh, what's my score today? Like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to choose this one instead of that one. But not that that's a bad
So
Apparently,
thing.
they already do that.
Yeah, they
yeah,
already do that. There's nothing we can do about it.
the one issue that I think I have seen people worrying about already is that because the elite end ends up being much less there are many fewer races available. So if they're, they only have 5 races a day. Uh, and it's such a broad range. So
It's like
that's
above 600 or something.
650. So
650.
Well, it's
uh,
technically it's everything. Like it's HWR.
yes. Uh, but it's a if you are above 700, those are the only races that are available to you.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
I think that what people are worried about is that top end racers start trying to tank their scores so that they can get into the next band down, which makes that band harder and then makes people want to tank so that they. And I don't know that that is as big an issue as the people who race a lot and like. I think that the combined echo chamber of these forums plus having people like, he who shall not be named on here, on those forums talking about stuff has maybe overstates the frequency with which those kinds of things happen.
I'll be
Yeah,
on. I'll just say like I race with a number of racers who are over six. I was over 650 at least at one point. I've never been over 700. And listen, there's I don't know the guys that I race with, the guys I race against that level. I don't think those are the type of people who are like they're grumpy about being up, not because they don't want to be up, because you can't find races. And so
yeah,
I'll be frank, I don't think those are the guys who are wrecking their score. I mean, they would be perfectly happy to go up against all the other guys who are 700 and have a good hard 20, 25 racer race and go at it. And if they're, 720, 730, and they finish 15th or 20th, and yeah, I think they have a sour about getting dropped by the guys who are, world tour riders, but if they can get into a race, they're getting into a race, and they'll be perfectly happy with that as long as there's numbers and stuff. That's my experience from
yeah,
talking to people at those types of levels. It's why HWR is so popular because we do
Yes.
get 20 riders who can ride that hard almost every race. So, I
yeah,
think having basically 5 HWRs a day, I mean, I think that might even be a bit too many, frankly. But like I would totally like even as a guy who's like my current ZR score is like 613. If I saw there was like 15, 20 guys in the 700 range, I'd go take a crack at them. Like, let's go. Like that's what's
yeah,
so fun about HWR, right?
Mhm.
So just
yeah,
looking at the racing scores of the people from HWR today, Matt DeFreitas is at 660. So that is essentially the cutoff. Like and it's not like he's getting absolutely destroyed by, he can usually stick in a group in that front group in HWR.
Yeah.
Well, and like I said, we just finished that RS. We were in B2. Terry Rigby won 3 races, and he's like I think right around that 700 level. I'm just pulling it up right now. Oh, pardon me, 806. But now
Hmm.
Terry has
Yeah.
like a 1400 plus watt sprint, so that's why
Yeah.
he gets such a high racing score. But he can hang in some of those races late. I know poor Nathaniel, the psychologist, he's like in that sort of 700-ish range. And he's been lamenting the lack of races. And like I said, he doesn't want
Yeah.
to sandbag. He doesn't want to go down. He just wants to race at that level
Yeah.
and just can't find a guy.
Yeah. And
I think, I
I
think
think
it's okay stuff.
I was about to say if there are only 5 races, but if Swift times that right around EU, British, or Europe, Central Europe, prime time, maybe East Coast and West Coast, America prime time, and somewhere prime time in Australia, you should get around those time. If you plan it that way, you should hopefully get that race density anyways, because like you said, HWR race one is prime EU, British, Europe, British prime time for Zwifting. So you see the numbers that show
Uh,
up.
yeah, and I mean, this is maybe an overgeneralization, but I do think that there is something to the fact that to be able to get to that high A plus level, you probably have to have a good deal of flexibility in your writing anyway, because you're probably not getting there on 45 minutes to an hour a day. Uh, so you might be able to kind of move things around to get into a race if you know there's going to be people racing.
Well, and I think the other thing that you'll find is those like that's a pretty elite community, and they talk to each other. Like they'll start finding the time the same way that like HWR fills up. Like everybody kind of knows this is the one, and they'll whatever those 5 times are. Like maybe 2 or 3 of them will basically become the time that we're all going to show up and bring out the guns and let's go. Like it's a really narrow community of guys who can race at that level or people, pardon me. There's probably some ladies in there. Um, and uh, and I think anyway, I'm positive on it. I think it's a good change. It's what we've been saying, right? Is that you need to like move these bands around, and that's going to change the perception of this stuff. So
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah,
a
and
real good
like it,
change.
yeah, moving those elite bands separately. It's currently you have an extra band to you have a lower range of score and an extra band to play with, so you can get those bands tighter. So it's all win-win, I think.
So the other, and this is kind of as you would expect, it is. So there was some information on the percentage of racers who show up in each of these new bands. And I think
Hmm.
the really interesting part that is even from recent racers, and if you're at that top level, you're going to be racing a lot more frequently than people at the lower end generally. But uh, even at 650, so you might think like, oh, 650 is pretty low considering you might end up racing against a person that's at a 350 points higher than you. But that 650 plus is only 6% of all racers. So you really are getting the tip of the spear, right?
Yeah,
I think there's an element of bias in this, isn't it? I think it's easier at lower levels to race more. Um, I think yes, you're less fit, but kind of like getting fit to do a half-hour effort 3 times a week at the kind of standard me and Steph are at. I think that's easier than being fit to do a like Matt De Freitas wouldn't be able to go all out as hard as he does, as deep as he does, as many times a week as kind of some I probably do because my all out is a lot lower than Matt's. So I think there's that element of the the top races. Well, we did see some crazy guys who are literally racing every day, but I
I
think
was
the top
gonna
races
say,
have
I was
probably
gonna
raised
say, you're
it.
not wrong, Steve. You're not wrong about the physiology of
Mm.
this, but the guys who are like the 850, 900 plus racers are actually not even going that hard for them. Like, because they're just on other humanly levels. Like they're breaking us in the first 5 minutes, the rest of us mortals, like, and then oh, I can do 5.0 for the next hour if I had to, but they don't. So yeah, that's why you do see a few. But yeah, that's like the top 1% of racers. So you're 100% right about the physiology. The practicality is you're going to see a bunch of guys who are 800 doing all 5 of these in a day because
What's
there's
their
10
grocery
people on the
bill look
planet who
like?
can do that.
We should correlate grocery bills with Zwift
Mm.
racing. Like
No, they
that's a
don't.
lot of calories.
They don't eat either. Well, that's not true, but like, when we were, this is a bit of inside mail, but we were posting in the Pinktron chat like pictures of the kit reveals for all the tour teams, and I was like, somebody get these guys a sandwich because they are, I would call them very fit. I know that's the
I
expression they
think that's
use in
it's
triathlon.
the disturbing thing when you see pro cyclists close up is how disproportionate their heads are to the rest of their body. I think you get used to seeing other people how a human head looks on top of a human body, and their heads are just very different. They just look out of proportion to the rest of their body because there's no fat on them.
Yeah.
They all look like they're from, is it the twins of Belleville or the sisters of Belleville? I don't know if you guys remember that animated movie where the guys like, it was an animated movie about bike racing and these ladies like sort of trained this bike racer. And of course it's this, artistic style. And like the guy's legs are like the same size as their shoulders. And then their heads are like even bigger.
Yeah. I do
Like it
remember
was,
that. Tiny little arms,
yeah,
tiny
yeah.
little arms.
Everything from the waist up was just like stick figure, but the legs were like massive, and then the head on top. Like it
Yeah.
was it was comic. Anyway,
The one other little piece of information that I think is interesting from the percentage stuff, uh, 500 is definitely not the midpoint of all riders.
Uh,
So I was just doing some quick calculations based on I'm around 380, 385. Uh, that's actually around the 66th percentile for like
looking,
all recent racers.
Hmm.
Um, a
yeah, looking at
500 a 500 is about the 87th percentile. So the bands that actually get the most racers is somewhere between about 200 and 450. Most of the racers that race a lot are in those ranges, which is why I think that you can actually get kind of tight bands
like,
around there and get good races.
which is kind of curious when you think like our beginner racing is like 40% of the race population fits into it.
More. It's 80%,
Yeah,
75%, somewhere in there.
yeah. So anyway, we're just trying to be inclusive.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah,
should
but
we go ahead,
that
Sam?
was about with stats. I think the the current C and D band, uh, or what we have now in Swift Racing Score, are the highest populated in Climbers Gambit.
Yeah.
The 50th percentile of recent racers, the racing score is about 320.
Yeah.
Oh, that's me. I'm the median racer.
I was about to say before the ladder race I was just above it. Now I'm back below it. I'm now just below 300 again through my ladder race on Wednesday.
Good, good. All right, let's move on. Our around the horn for this episode is going to be, what is your Zwiftmas wish? I don't know about if I pronounced that right, but basically we're all gonna say what's kind of on our Zwiftmas wish list. What do
Your
we either
Zwish
want?
list.
Your
Wish.
Zwiftmas wish list? Boy, I'll assault everybody's ears. All right. John, I know you said you've been thinking about this, and just so everybody can remember, we're basically 2 days away from John's Pinktron anniversary. I think
Yeah.
you've probably been on like 52 episodes. I think we've got one every week since last
Uh,
December.
No, I think I was in
Miss
Britain
a
a couple
couple.
of weeks.
So
Yeah, but almost all of them. I try to
very
make all
cool.
of them because it's so fun. You guys are so
I
great.
Yeah, no, and we love having you. It's been such a great addition. So, all right,
I
John, start us off. What do you got on your Zwiftmas wish list? I'm
so
gonna say it a
I'll
thousand
lead
times.
it off with like definitions, like which I asked before we started recording. Is this like what I want in my garage shed, whatever, pain cave, whatever you want to call it? Or is this like Zwift software changes? And I think everybody just sort of shook their head. So
Yes,
I'll give one
correct.
I'll give one of each. Although I'm toying with the idea of moving from my garage to an interior like basement space. Pros and cons of that. So I don't know what that's going to look like to change my in real life wish, but right now I just want one of those grabbers like you can get out of the Finger Hut catalog for old people so they can get stuff down off of the shelf because I've dropped my towel like 3 times in the last couple weeks in the middle of races and I'm like, okay, but I'm just that's it. I'm done. I'm not going to wipe
Oh,
any
the
sweat off of it.
panic is real, isn't it? The kind of
Yeah,
you have that moment of like, is there a bit where I can freewheel, grab my towel, unclip, clip back in,
right. You
and
just
get
overthink it. Like,
through? Yeah.
no, no.
That the wet water bottle as well. Accidentally dropped my water bottle.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
going too
Water
fast the
bottle.
entire race. I can't get to it
So,
anymore.
go to your local geriatric supply store, get a grabber. Um,
It's like I like that. Did you ever do the one leg out, and you just lean over and grab it? I've done
no,
that
I
one for
haven't
sure.
done that.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That's a good one.
I'm fear
And
of toppling it all over that.
I'll say for in-game, I'm really excited about the power to the portal route, which is a new route you end up, I think, or you start at the downtown pens, you sort of noodle around for a good 10, 15K. It's a
Yeah,
nice little warm up. And then you hit the portal, the whatever the hill climb du jour is. And so I think that would be a really fun series on Climber's Gambit if they changed the portal at the right times. I think there's some issues where they change it on like Friday night, midnight GMT. So we'd have to think about how that works. But I think that'd be a fun one where you're sort of at the mercy of Zwift to define the duration of the actual hill climb.
yeah. I've done the map stage 3 route, which was power to the portal, which was on Old Willowgale. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
Old
nice.
Wollonga is a good one too.
Uh,
I think the danger there is they could zap you with some of those really awful
Formulae.
Turmola,
the
Turmola like
tourmalet.
beat
Yeah,
that,
just no, I'm not going to do that for a time trial. Those are
Yeah.
mine.
if that happens to be climbers again, I'm sure that weekend's going to be low numbers
Yeah.
compared to.
All
I
right,
mean,
Steph. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say we did used to run the Alp Dash, which was a kind of like
Mm,
chasing based event, like an Alp Dash style climbers portal where obviously you'd have to change the start times weekly based on the climb, but
mm,
that could be a cool race.
yeah.
All right, go ahead, Steph. What do you got?
Uh, for Zwift's tech for my actual setup, my one of my controllers stopped working and my regular bike is getting old, so inkling on getting the Zwift ride frame, combining to it my trainer to go full virtual shifting and one by using that as a Zwift setup for going forward. And for in-game, yeah, I think Steve mentioned it for Climber's Gambit or Bullseye in-game scoring, a couple of other things.
Yeah, in-game scoring. In-game scoring is what I think that's been on the Pink Trons with Mish list since 2021. So
Mhm.
Yeah,
they
but
know,
yeah,
they know.
yeah, but yeah, I like people complain about Swift and there are things to improve, but you notice they are putting in the work, and all people like James being a ladder captain, doing a great job getting things sorted because those ladder race event requests are in the hundreds per week. And it's James and I think a colleague from him in US based providing these on a very timely schedule is I think we complain a lot about Swift, but they're also doing great work in supporting and
All right, Steve, are you ready to roll? Are you good to come on?
Yeah, I think we've got little Jack
yeah.
fast on me here.
So
Yeah.
sweet.
Making his debut appearance on the Pink John. He's got nothing to input, sadly, but probably still going to make more sense than I do on an average week. But I think with a bit more limited time to Zwift, my Zwiftmas, I can't even say it. My wish list is around kind of things that allow me to get onto Zwift and enjoy it, kind of maximum out for minimum time. So I guess the first one's functioning tech. Like, just isn't it a pain in the ass when you jump on and your heart rate monitor doesn't connect, or
Mm.
there's an update, or there's something that just kind of, oh God, kind of, I've got to do that now, and that's some work. So yeah, general functioning tech wish. I think I'm really excited about the changes to the calendar. Like I think for me, being able to look at the calendar and go, right, I've got an hour now. I can jump on Zwift. Oh, there's a race on. It's really well attended. And actually, what we've talked about tonight about, I might be in the chance of winning this one. I'm near the top of it. Oh, this one's going to be tough because I'm in that middle group. Kind of that indication of where I'm going to be kind of quite easily will be really fun. And I think just to go back to the point scoring in game, that we've one of the people responded to Steph's post about kind of come and join our events, and oh, I really like the bullseye, and it's like, yeah, cool, I really like the bullseye as well. However, I think the bullseye had the highest barrier to entry. Like, there was genuinely, had no idea what was going on in the bullseye. You wouldn't know if you were winning, and that's really hard. So point scoring in game will just be brilliant. It will be a game changer, I think. And the positive news is James has said on a public forum that he thinks it's in the plan for next year. So we hopefully by this time next year we'll be talking about how brilliant points-based scoring is, or that it's imminent. So yeah, I think kind of Zwift are making lots of updates and lots of changes, which is hugely positive, isn't it? So yeah, there we go. That's right to John. No, John went.
Don't
Sean, sorry.
Uh, Steve, I will remind you that your initial draft list was talent, more watts, and fewer kgs.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
that's bumped up against reality.
so yeah, I've got some similar things. I think for the on that tech side, I am considering uh setting up a bike and trainer setup that I can actually that's just a smoother setup. Um, I can't use the controllers on my bike, and I've got a full 11 speed that the the indexing is always a little wrong and isn't quite the indexing on my outdoor wheel and on the trainer are a little different, and so like it's always a bit of a faff. Um, so maybe
Sorry, what's
even
the
just
what's the hold up? Like, why can't you do the virtual, like the controllers? Why don't they work on your bike?
Campagnolo shifters, which have
yeah,
the thumb
yeah,
triggers.
yeah.
So the Zwift Play controllers are not compatible with the thumb shifters because of where you have to seat them.
But
Um,
you could go for the click and
I might do that, but I do think that like setting up just a simple one by frame with virtual shifting might be the way to go.
and I'm genuinely interested in this because one of sort of the pipe dream I have is very similar, and I think we talked about this before. But would you go would you even lose the chain and go for like a rubber chain or something like that?
If it was an option, I would consider it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think the trick would be getting it to work on the trainer, right? You have
right.
to on the free hub, you have to put
Hmm.
whatever the belt drive thing on is.
I think the other one for me that I've toyed with, which is cheaper, is I think I would put bullhorn bars, sorry, on a dedicated Zwift bike because I
Yep.
don't think you ever go on the drops on Zwift. I think you sprint. I mean, you sprint on the hoods, like, and I think if you made them more like bars, I can't say it, you'd sprint on those just as effectively, and I think it'd just be a cleaner setup. It would look prettier.
Yeah.
It wouldn't
Uh,
look as cool as a tall bike. I think that somebody needs to make a YouTube tall bike on Zwift. I
Like
think
a
that'd
penny
be the
farthing?
bomb. No, no, just like, Portland style people who weld three frames on top of each other and then like run this huge chain down it. Like they can pedal along and then grab the top of streetlights to balance at stop signs.
The one I get people doing, but still looks incredibly dorky, is when people have their full-time trial setup on Zwift, which
Right.
I completely understand from a training perspective, but you look like a massive dork.
I
Yeah.
to be fair, that was one of the things that I really enjoyed watching James Bailey's streams on the Watt bike and just like down in the drops, ready to go. Uh, but yeah, so I'm considering like, do I set up a indoor specific frame that is doesn't have to be anything fancy, but that would just work.
Mhm.
Um, So that and potentially even doing some chain waxing will be nice to talk to Chris uh, when we get him back on to see how his chain waxing experience has gone since last year.
I've been doing it for, yeah, a year and a half, I think.
Yeah.
Is there
It's the
not like I
bomb.
just want to ask about the chain wax? Does it not leave like wax flakes everywhere that you got to clean up?
Completely. It leaves it all over the
Oh,
place. Yeah,
all
yeah.
right.
Okay.
So you got to vacuum off your whatever your mat is. But
Mm,
Well, my wife would probably actually appreciate if I do that, but
yeah.
mine's like just a massive salty mess. Anyway.
yeah,
Uh,
All right.
and
Should
then,
I
well,
go?
so then my
Oh yeah, sorry,
the
tech.
in-game
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
I obviously the point scoring in game, but I think the thing that I am most interested in is them actually getting ZRS right. So
Yeah.
I love the implementation, like or the theory of it, um, and I am excited to see the implementation match the vision because I think that once we get there and getting these new bands, like can allow for some things that we haven't really had in Zwift.
Yeah, if they can not match but be on the same line like a Velo scoring, have that operating functionality, that would be great indeed. So that this is a fellow as it's pretty good. And it is a proven track record. And if ZRS can get up to around that level, that would be great because then you have a in-game thing that people can rely on for their scoring.
And then the final bit is some sort of like integrated website or app or whatever that actually like shows you what your racing history looks like and like just gives you more information than the companion app
Yeah,
or
that
Zwift.com
that last one
does.
was 100% going to be mine. It's just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
something that
yeah,
takes like Zwift Power and the stuff that shows up on Zwift.com and companion app, and it all works and it's all on a like it's all like in a website would be fine. Like I just listen, I'm not a web developer, but I just can't believe it's that hard. Like it's right there. Like well, this one does that, this one does that, that one does this. Why can one thing not do all three in 2 clicks? Like I
Yeah.
30 other websites I
yeah.
use do that. So anyway,
The,
I
it's the same with the Swift racing apps thing as well as that history of your Velo score was saying put it in like an extra column in Zwift Power, but you want it to happen in a Zwift owned thing. And I think Zwift Racing App is one guy or still probably a team behind it, but like I said, couldn't be that difficult if that's both. We have two websites that have all basically the data we need, and yeah, you wanted
Well, and
something that Zwift can own itself and mimic.
well, and WTRL. Like I
Right.
don't
Yeah,
like I get
same.
I
Yeah.
get
Yeah,
like there's community stuff, but like there's a commercial relationship between WTRL and Zwift for ZRL. I get TTT is still all community and stuff, but then like so let's leave aside the Zwift Power, which is owned by Zwift, Zwift.com, which is owned by Zwift, Companion app, which is Zwift, WTRL, which is like hybrid, um,
Swift
TTT, which is
associated.
neither. Now throw in
Adjacent.
Flamme Rouge Racing, which has its own website. Throw in Chasing, which has its own set of stuff. ZwiftRacing.app. Like I shouldn't like need to know and learn and understand like 5, 6 different websites and their interfaces and everything to like register, sign up, understand where I am. Like it's like I get the support of the community and everything else, but if I look at like something that's not sport and I look at more like video game, like if I was going to play like League of Legends or Call of Duty, like maybe there's one external website that deals with some of this, and then there's might be forums and all the rest. But like, there's not like if you go to like the race rankings or the fight rankings or the game rankings, there's like one source of truth for all this stuff and the rankings for all of it and all the rest. So
And I think that for me, the real dream is you get all of these things in a single place with in-game scoring so that you know how, you know, who is winning, and those in-game scores actually end up reflecting on what the like who wins and can affect your racing score because right now like there's so many races that just don't have any impact on what your racing score is and so like it doesn't actually you
Yeah.
could be a really great racer who never races that the scratch races and you don't end up in the place you should and just being able to have all of those integrated ideally gets you into more fun races, and I feel like that's the goal.
so
I, I just want to like a note of massive optimism here. I think previous years we sat around, previous times we sat around and talked about this, and I think the pushback is that kind of Zwift isn't really a racing platform; it's a workout platform. And 10 years ago, some people went, "Hey, we can use this workout platform to do some racing on," and that's kind of like the history of racing on Zwift is it's always been community led. It's never been the kind of main reason Zwift did Zwift. And I think what's really positive is how much they're doing things like Zwift Racing Score, the stuff Steph mentioned about how there are really hardworking people at Zwift who want to do things like Ladder League to make racing happen. And it looks like them the kind of maybe Zwift are realizing that kind of I don't know whether it's that there's more competition in the workout space, whether it's how membership retention and recruitment works, that they've just seen massive improvement if they get people into racing and that's a good revenue stream for them. I don't know, but it just looks like at Zwift something that they're looking at it and going, hey, if we make racing really good, there's something in this. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
yeah, I think that's right. I think the impression I have is that somewhere in the math they realized that like that vast population of people who weren't doing the racing are maybe more churn, but the like hardcores, the people who bring bodies with them, the people who stick around, at least like to do some racing and would do more if it was a better experience and they'd be stickier. But my sort of setup thing, I think for me is actually new saddle. Like I think I might have posted this. Like I don't know if a saddle wears out, but I've been using the same bike since 2012, and I've the stock saddle on it, and my butt hurts all the time when I ride. Like I get
Mhm.
over 60, 75 minutes, and my butt is killing me. And I think I like it. I don't think it's my fit because like my knees are okay, my calves are okay, my ankle, my feet, but my butt hurts,
Brent,
and I
I've got
think
a
it's my
question.
saddle is worn out.
So last year on our like stocking stuffers episode, your wish list item was new bibs that were not ratty with worn out chamois. So does that
I got a new pair of bibs last year, and my butt hurts the same. I still have some of the old beat up ones because I still, when you get in the deep in the laundry, as everyone knows, I hate the laundry, so I still pull them out. But it doesn't seem to matter. It doesn't seem to matter if it's the good ones, the old ones. It still hurts. It's got to be in the saddle somewhere. I think. I think it's like, I don't know. I think they wear out, right? Like the foam part
Saddle
of
can
it or
definitely
whatever
wear
just
out.
gets a bit
Yeah,
worn out.
yeah.
And this is a new thing. This is something that's just changed somewhat recently.
Well, it's gotten worse, I would say, right?
Okay.
Like always, like after so much time in the saddle, but I've just noticed in the last, especially I'll say 6 months, that like those longer, like earlier in the ride, in the longer rides, I feel more discomfort.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I'm just going to echo Craig Martin and what he'd say here is I don't know why you're bothering with a chamois or a posh saddle. He probably rides on a piece of maple, if on a saddle at all, just with his bare Canadian ass on there because Craig's just hard as nails. I think
He
is what
said he
we
was going to get a
said.
Brooks, the Maniac. Like those are horrible. I mean, no
90% of
offense to
Craig's
people who
races
ride
last 90
Brooks. A lot
seconds.
of people like them.
All right. I think on that note, we will say thank you to John Keenan. Thank you to Steve Pritchard. Thank you to Steph Etchen. Thank you to Sean Fogenberg. Thank you to everyone who's been listening. I'm going to say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy
Happy
Hanukkah.
Hanukkah.
Yep. Happy Kwanzaa.
and hey, potentially keep an eye out for next week because we may be having a extravaganza.
We're working on an extravaganza. It may or may not be recorded, may or not end up as a podcast, but there
Yeah.
may be some fun. There may be some Zoom. There may be some drinks.
Ho, ho, ho.
So stick around. Do HWR this weekend, everybody, and enjoy your holidays. And we will see everybody very soon. Moo and good night.